when the movie came out, the poster didn't even have him on it originally. The poster for the film, I'll throw it online on the YouTube version. It's just a poster of the tower, Nakatomi Tower, and that's it. And there's like an explosion at the top, and it's like Die Hard. And you don't even see Bruce Willis's name until like the fine print credits on the bottom. But then, because it became such a huge hit and audiences loved Bruce Willis's character, they redid the poster while the movie was still released in theaters, and they redid a poster with Bruce Willis's face like gigantic on the poster right next to the tower. So the studio, even though they hired Bruce Willis and obviously thought he was right for the role, they weren't like pushing like, oh, this is Bruce Willis, this is like a new star. They were more like, oh, this is like a great action movie you think you'll like. Happy holidays, everyone. Welcome back to the show. This is Anthony.
And this is James. We're going to do our favorite Christmas movie of all time. Well, it's my favorite Christmas movie. I don't know if it is yours. Yeah. We're doing Die Hard. This was released in 1988, directed by John McClane. On IMDb, it's at 8.2. It's currently the number 128th best film of all time, according to the IMDb user rating list. Rotten Tomatoes, it's 94% audience and critic score. This film had 4 Oscar nominations, including Best Sound, Best Sound Effects. I believe it's now one category for sound. Best Editing, Best Visual Effects. And it lost almost all of those to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is kind of lame.
Well, no, that's a great movie.
It's pretty good, but it's not Die Hard.
That was a visually stunning.
Yeah, it was ahead of its time for sure.
Yeah.
But I think
get off of Who's Eating Roger Rabbit.
Who's Eating Roger Rabbit? I just don't love that movie. But I think Die Hard is possibly the greatest action movie of all time.
It's up there, and there's been a debate about whether it is a Christmas movie or not. But 20th Century Fox actually came out recently and said 100% confirmed this is a Christmas movie, and now that makes it top of the list because I think there's debate about Nightmare Before Christmas. Although I think Nightmare can be both Halloween and Christmas. I think it works for both holidays. Whereas, like, if you want to take just a pure movie that is just purely about Christmas, I would say Elf is number 1.
Yeah, but, I mean, I want to actually talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
We'll get into what makes Die Hard a Christmas movie because I made an entire list
I cannot wait to see this list.
But I think in terms of the 20th century, Die Hard, I think it might be the best action movie of that century. Maybe this century there's been something better. I'm not sure. Because, I mean, when you make the list of best action films, I would even put, like, The Raid up there for all-time greatest action films.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But I think that Die Hard was incredibly groundbreaking action. It's very well paced, really well edited, awesome screenplay, as well as a ton of improvisation to give it like a bunch of realism and like soul to the script as well. And one of the most all-time greatest action heroes of all time, and John McClane.
Yeah, and John McTiernan is a really underrated director. He's made some of the best action movies of all time. He made Predator as well. Hunt for Red October is really fantastic, and he did the third Die Hard, which I think is really awesome, almost as good as the first one. But like, I think it could be the greatest action movie of all time. I think the main reason why is because of John McClane. Because, this is coming off of like Schwarzenegger, Stallone. They were really growing in the industry. Their movies, like big time action movies, were the thing of the 80s and early 90s. And then, the thing with John McClane is he just looks like a normal guy and he acts like a normal guy. He's not like some unbeatable, bulletproof, superhero-like
biceps the size of your head.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't look like he's just juiced out of his mind. John McClane's relatability is what makes this movie work and makes it feel like, hey, I know this guy, or it makes you feel like, hey, I'm like this guy. He reminds me of myself, or reminds me of like people I know, or he's just a cop. And I think that putting just a normal guy in this situation is why it works so well.
And not just a normal guy, a very flawed individual.
Yeah.
John McClane has a lot of character flaws, especially like being very stubborn. I mean, the first time he sees his wife,
stubborn.
Within 5 minutes, he starts an argument to go back and keep fighting about the last fight they had several months before. So he's just like an arrogant, stubborn guy. But, he ends up being an incredible hero. And that's why I love John McClane so much, because of all those different factors. Mm-hmm. And before we continue, the best way to support Raiders of the Lost Podcast is to become a patron at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast, where you get awesome perks like our podcast schedule for upcoming episodes, personalized videos, Patreon shoutouts on the show, which we will be doing in the next episode for top tier patrons, and then weekly bonus episodes every Wednesday, which post on Patreon that only patrons have access to. We also just launched our podcast masterclass online course. So for anyone who wants to start a podcast and doesn't know how, or wants to improve their current podcast, our 22-chapter 46 video lesson course will give you all of the secrets behind the scenes of our show and everything we do on a daily basis over the last year and a half to get to where we are right now. The link is podcastmasterclass.teachable.com. or just go to our website, RaidersOfTheLostPodcast.com. You can find the masterclass there right on the homepage. You can also check out all of our merch, our custom movie posters. Follow, subscribe, hit the notification bells wherever you're listening or watching. And thank you so much for tuning in around the world. And let's get back into our holiday special on Die Hard.
Oh, yeah. And it is, I think it's the best Christmas movie ever made.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about what makes it a Christmas movie?
Absolutely.
All right. So I know
hear this list.
There's a big debate about, it's a Christmas movie or it's not. Personally, in my life, I like to have a good time as much as possible. So that makes Die Hard.
James Good Time Deveney.
That means that Die Hard is in fact a Christmas movie. First, it's on Christmas Eve. That's a set. Christmas Eve, night before Christmas, and it eventually becomes Christmas because it all happens throughout the middle of the night. There are tons of Christmas decorations, obviously, throughout the entire film. Christmas trees, there are several of them. I think there are over like 20 just shots of just Christmas decorations just in the film, let alone everything that people are wearing and all that stuff.
Yeah, music.
It takes place during a holiday party for this company, although they're also celebrating closing a big deal, of course, and the company having the best year it's ever had. So there are other reasons why they're celebrating, but it takes place during this holiday Christmas party. There are several Christmas songs in the film, including Winter Wonderland, Let It Snow, Christmas in Hollis, and Ode to Joy. John's wife's name is Holly, which could be a reference to Christmas or not, if you read into it.
I think you're stretching with that one.
No, man. I'm deep in the rabbit hole.
I think you're stretching.
There's Santa Claus in the movie, so a character actually dresses up like Santa, kind of. So after John kills Tony, he puts a Santa hat on him, writes on his shirt, "Ho, ho, ho, now I have a machine gun." Super Christmassy. Merry Christmas is said several times throughout the film, including Theo declaring Merry Christmas when the vault opens, and John says it to Argyle at the end of the film, meaning it's Christmas Day now. There are so many miracles that happen in this film for both villains and heroes. Hans also tells Theo that it is the season of miracles when he's talking about the final vault lock opening eventually. Argyle, the limo driver, says one of the final lines of the film is, "If this is their idea of Christmas, I've got to be here for New Year's." Let's see what else we have. Viewership. So according to Dish Network in 2017, 1.3 million Americans watched Die Hard on Christmas Eve in 2016, which beat out movies like Home Alone, Miracle on 34th Street, and The Santa Claus.
Wow.
So
That's crazy.
Tons of viewership on Christmas Eve. Let's see what else. Another reference to Santa Claus. Holly, when she's talking to her daughter on the phone, when her daughter asks if Daddy's coming home for Christmas, she tells her she'll see what Santa and her can do with bringing Daddy home. She also referenced not snooping for presents before saying, give the phone to Paulina. And then there's snow at the end of the movie. Well, kind of. It's actually debris and falling ash from the explosions of the building, but it looks like snow in Los Angeles. So that's a miracle. So basically, that's my list of everything, all the reasons why it's a Christmas movie.
And the movie's about family.
Yeah.
It ends with, it's the main theme is family.
Yeah.
You know, John McClane coming back to his family.
It's a Christmas movie.
Like, because so many Christmas movies are about, reuniting with family or coming home for the holidays. So I think that it definitely is the ultimate Christmas movie.
Yeah, I mean, I know people have their specific criteria of what makes a holiday film or a Christmas film. It has to be, like, good-natured.
Oh, you could say John even wraps a present, the gun he tapes to his back.
So actually there are several presents in the film, including him taping the gun to his back and Al buying all the Twinkies that he says are for his wife, which we can all assume are actually for him, probably.
No, she's pregnant, man.
Yeah, okay. And then Holly getting the Rolex from the company as a present. Mm-hmm. The FBI gifts Hans Gruber with access to the Nakatomi Vault after shutting down the local power grid. So all sorts of presents happen throughout the film.
That's a great list.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I like that.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Great job.
And actually, did you know that Die Hard's based on a book?
Yeah, I do know. And did you know that it's a sequel to a book in which Frank Sinatra starred in the original film, and he was actually approached to star in Die Hard because it's a sequel to the other story that he starred in. Same character? Not John McClane, but someone else in the book, I believe. Or maybe it was the character. I think they changed the name, but this was
Joe Leland in the book.
Okay, so he played Joe Leland in the original film in the 50s, but he was like 73 by the time they made Die Hard, so he turned it down. But that was originally like the same franchise.
Gotcha. So the book is actually called Nothing Lasts Forever.
That's it, yeah.
By Roderick Thorpe, and it's about a retired NYPD detective, Joe Leland, visiting the 40-story office headquarters of the Klaxon Oil Corporation in Los Angeles on Christmas Eve, where his daughter Stephanie Leland Gennaro works, while he's waiting for his daughter's Christmas party to end. A group of German autumn-era terrorists take over the skyscraper. The gang is led by brutal Anton Little Tony the Red Gruber, and so actually he knew him. So you can see how, but also Police Sergeant Al Powell is also outside and they're communicating. So you can see how they adapted the book into the film version for a more interesting script and more relatable, I think.
I like
changing the daughter to the wife,
Yeah.
the estranged wife, where she's,
I feel like they improved it.
Yeah,
It
for
sounds
sure.
like they improved the story.
I think so too.
And Bruce Willis, when it came out, he was such an unknown actor in terms of the action world. He had a successful show called Moonlight, and he was starring with Sybil Shepherd, which was a comedy series, and it was one of the biggest hits on TV, but he was basically playing for laughs the whole time. And so
He had a couple of roles too, like that movie where he's a singer.
Yeah. But he had never done anything even remotely close to action.
Yeah.
So no one looked at him that way. When the movie came out, the poster didn't even have him on it originally. The poster for the film, I'll throw it online on the YouTube version. It's just a poster of the tower, Nakatomi Tower, and that's it. And there's like an explosion at the top, and it's like Die Hard. And you don't even see Bruce Willis's name until like the fine print credits on the bottom. But then, because it became such a huge hit and audiences loved Bruce Willis's character, they redid the poster while the movie was still released in theaters, and they redid a poster with Bruce Willis's face like gigantic on the poster right next to the tower. So the studio, even though they hired Bruce Willis and obviously thought he was right for the role, they weren't like pushing like, oh, this is Bruce Willis, this is like a new star. They were more like, oh, this is like a great action movie you think you'll like.
Yeah, and it's actually ironic because he received a then unheard of $5 million fee to play John McClane, which was approved by Fox president Rupert Murdoch at the time. And
Great decision.
yeah, there's a ton of actually fun facts about John McClane and Bruce Willis. So the costume department had 17 undershirts in various stages of degradation on hand for Bruce Willis during the film, because throughout the entire film, it just goes from just the white undershirt tank top to it's literally brown and black and covered in blood and soot. Bruce Willis donated John McClane's undershirt to the Smithsonian Museum in 2007, which is really cool.
I got something. Clint Eastwood had actually owned the rights to the novel.
Do you really?
For a couple of decades, and he planned to star in it in the early 1980s. It never worked out, and then I think he sold the rights to the novel. So he actually had it in production for a while.
That's really cool. Die Hard was actually selected for preservation in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress in 2017 for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant.
No way.
People love this movie. That's why. I think one of my favorite parts about this entire film is, yes, it's this great, like modern, well, in the 80s, modern action movie, but it feels so much like a Western or like a gunslinger film, It feels like a classic Western at times. So many references, obviously, to John Wayne, to Roy Rogers. John McClane is a cowboy. Hans Gruber calls him Mr. Cowboy several times. We have so many references to Westerns with the great shootouts, like on the top of the skyscraper, inside the skyscraper. We have duels, the final duel at the end, too, with John, and he blows the gun, the barrel after he shoots them both. We have cops versus robbers, Yippee Ki-yay, which is a reference to Westerns and cowboys, which was a slang form of exclamation that cowboys used to say.
Yeah.
And so I just love the feel of it. It feels like an old Western, which is why I really like it.
And I think that the movie just ultimately works because of Bruce Willis. You know what I mean? He became a massive star for a reason. And, I think that Bruce is so likable on screen. I know his career has kind of slowed down in terms of great movies. He's just kind of doing like
20 movies a year to pay his bills.
The cheesy action movies. He's getting paid. I think
how much insurance on a Ferrari costs?
He's got a big family, And I think that, he's definitely one of the greatest action stars, one of the greatest movie stars in American history. I mean, the guy was gigantic for 20 years, and he brings so much likability, charisma, so much cool. Bruce Willis is just like one of the coolest actors ever. You can't deny that. And he brings it even to a movie like Pulp Fiction. He's like just as cool as Vincent Vega. You know what I mean? And he just has that natural quality that, you can't just teach actors.
Yeah, like McClane when he's just lighting up a cigarette like in the bathroom or someone. He just he looks so cool.
Yeah.
In every shot, in every scene, everything he does. You're right. He's just got it. Whatever it is, whatever you want to call it.
He's got it.
He's got it, man. Bruce Willis has it, and he's had it for a long time.
And you can tell he improvised a lot in this movie.
Oh, for sure.
And ironically, even though the terrorists and the robbers are German. Most of them are German in this movie. Only a couple of them were actually German. And ironically, Bruce Willis is the most German out of the entire cast because he was born in Germany. So Bruce Willis was born in West Germany, and that makes him more German than the majority of the cast in this movie. And only 2 of the terrorists even spoke German. The rest were speaking like broken German that wasn't quite accurate. And then obviously Alan Rickman is just British, so he didn't speak German at all for real. But
his accent's so good.
Yeah, his accent's great, but I will say Alan Rickman's American accent, it is noticeable.
Yeah, well, it was his first film role, and maybe he hadn't done like an American theater or like an American actor.
But that's what's crazy. This is Alan Rickman's first movie.
Yeah, it's incredible.
He was a big-time stage actor in the UK for a while and well-established on the stage, but he had never really pursued movies to be an actor in film. Ironically, now he's made 2 iconic characters in film history, but the producers of this film, they saw him in a stage play where he played the villain. I can't remember what it's called.
Dangerous Liaisons.
Thank you, Dangerous Liaisons.
He played Vicomte de Valmont.
Exactly. That was on the tip of my tongue. But he played that character, it's a villain, and then John McTiernan and one of the producers saw him, and they were like, that's our Hans Gruber. And then they approached him to star in the movie.
It's possibly his best role ever, too. I mean, we all love him as Snape, but Snape doesn't get a ton of screen time, really, until, like, the latter, like, Half-Blood Prince.
But also, he has more movies to mesh that character, flesh the character out, whereas this, you only get, like, 30 minutes of screen time. Mm-hmm. So I think it's definitely, you could say, it's his best role because of how much less screen time he has as opposed to Snape.
It might be the best part of the movie, too, because the power and confidence that Alan Rickman possesses on camera was astounding for it being his first role. Yes, he's an accomplished stage actor at the time, but acting on set for a camera is completely different than acting on stage, and you kind of have to change up the way you do everything.
You got a film crew all around you.
Yeah, and what I also love about his character and Hans Gruber is he doesn't speak for several minutes into the film while they're taking over the Nakatomi
That's
Tower.
one of the strongest sequences. There's no dialogue.
No dialogue. They're just doing it. It's an awesome sequence, and then there's the shots of him like humming, and I love Gruber because he's very intelligent. He's also very arrogant. So him and John are actually very similar, which is why I think you could see like they could get along if they were both on the same side of the spectrum, being villains or antagonists or heroes.
But they did grow up with completely different lives because you can tell. And he says Hans Gruber grew up like in high class UK society. He went to like boarding schools.
Perks of a classical education.
Exactly. So well educated, probably lived a more privileged life than most people on the planet. And as opposed to John McClane, you can just gather he grew up, not like he grew up in the streets, but he probably grew up in like, a normal city neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like maybe like Brooklyn or the Bronx or Queens, something like that. That's my guess. So completely different childhoods and upbringings, but they do have similarities. But I think that Alan Rickman's Hans Gruber is really fascinating because for someone as cruel, ruthless, and, downright bad as he is, there's a lot of like qualities of respect and like gentlemanliness and politeness. Like when he finally meets Nakatomi, he like shakes his hand, it's like it's a pleasure to meet you, and compliments his suit and stuff like that. And he has style and he appreciates style. He's like I have 3 of those suits myself. So he's always like showing these signs of like respecting people even though he's dominating them.
I could talk about industrialization in men's fashion for all day.
Yeah, exactly.
But work must come first. On Alan Rickman's first day of shooting, he actually filmed the scene where Hans Gruber runs into John McClane on the skyscraper, and he made a jump off that ledge about 3 feet high. He injured himself when he landed and damaged some cartilage in his knee, so he's told by his doctor not to put any weight on that leg. And this is the first day of filming, and he had to use crutches for about a week. For the rest of the scene where Hans Gruber is standing and talking to John McClane when he's pretending to be an American and working at the tower, Alan Rickman is actually standing on only one leg the entire time, and he has a big leg brace underneath his pants.
That makes sense because they did a close-up of his foot landing, so it was probably a stuntman's feet landing on the ground.
Yeah, probably.
And then they cut because he probably fell the first take. And, that means he's not an athlete. Some people, if they never did sports growing up, like something like 3 feet, it doesn't seem like that big of a drop, but it actually is.
Plus, maybe you're nervous. It's your first day of filming on a movie, big budget production. You're the villain. Maybe I'd probably be jacked up and probably trip or something like that too. I'd probably mess up. It's like one of those things that, of course I can jump off a 3-foot ledge. It's no big deal.
I've jumped off ledges thinking like, oh, this is no problem. And then I land and I'm like, oh my God, that hurt.
I've gotten off the couch and been like, oh my God, that hurts for no reason. Why is my Achilles tearing right now?
Because you're 31, bro.
Hey, man. Well, we all know that.
That's what happens. But I also, one of the best shots of the movie is Hans Gruber's death, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's an iconic shot. It still looks great to this day. It's really simple, blending of the two shots together of him falling. And I mean, it still looks just as good as most CGI these days. But the way they got that look of Alan Rickman's look on his face when he's falling is just that great look of fear and disbelief and just like terror.
Shock.
Yeah. What they did was they were hanging him, and they really did drop him onto like a big pillow balloon something.
And then drop him off the skyscraper.
No, all right, Alan, we have one take.
He's not method. we got it. You saved it for the last day of shooting. Good luck.
But oh man, were we rolling?
Crap, get another Alan Rickman in here.
But they said they're going to give him a 3 count. So on 1, 2, 3 we'll drop you. But they dropped him on 2. So for a moment he wasn't expecting to be dropped right then, so they got a realistic look of shock on his face when he's falling.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that shot. And when you watch it, you're like, oh yeah, he definitely wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, there's a ton of great practical effects in this film.
Yeah.
That's why I was nominated for an Oscar for
so many
visual effects.
miniatures.
And not even just miniatures, but they're on top of this skyscraper. You can see Los Angeles everywhere, and they're inside the skyscraper, which is really amazing too. And it's actually incredible what they pulled off, because there's so many real explosions, really filming on top of that skyscraper. And the fictional Nakatomi Plaza and the tower, it was the headquarters of 20th Century Fox. I don't know if it still is, maybe. And the company charged itself rent for the use of the then unfinished building. So this is really their skyscraper that they were filming inside of and on top of.
Oh, so they didn't have to rent it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So no money.
The practical effects are absolutely incredible. I think one of the best shots of the entire film is when Al's at the gas station, he's buying those Twinkies, and he gets out of his car, out of the gas station, and he gets the call about the code 2 to investigate, do the drive-by at Nakatomi Plaza, and he leaves his car, and he goes to walk out to the street to look at the plaza in the skyscraper because it's right there. And you just see like the flashing lights like the red lights you always see on top of skyscrapers that are probably antenna and stuff like that. But then you see flashing white lights, and he's probably like, oh, it must be other things that are
other
up there,
lights,
other electronics. And then we cut to the skyscraper roof, and it's a gunfight.
Yeah, it's great.
I think it's an incredible practical effect. Like they probably just shine lights up there, but it's really amazing.
It's one of the best moments of the film, I think. I'm glad you pointed that out. And I think my favorite stunt might be when they blow the roof. And then John, when right before it blows, he wraps the fire hose around himself, and he jumps off the roof, and he just, like Trinity in the Matrix, slams into the glass. I love that shot.
Yeah,
it's so much.
sure.
It's a great shot when he jumps off, and the explosion's right behind him. It still holds up to this day and looks fantastic.
Yeah, something else that holds up are our LG Gram ultra lightweight laptops, which are currently on our desks thanks to LG. If you're watching on YouTube or checking on social media, you have seen these before, and we love these laptops. They have this incredible 16:10 aspect ratio, which means more vertical space, which is awesome for editing the episodes and clips, for taking notes, but most importantly, for watching films like Die Hard and your favorite holiday films. This holiday season, in your bedroom or in your living room, whatever, if you're gonna watch a movie on a laptop, I'm telling you, you get the LG's ultra lightweight Gram laptops. The displays are exceptional. They're very light, shockingly light. Honestly, they feel hollow sometimes. And so we're gonna put links to our YouTube bio of both the 16-inch and 17-inch LG Gram ultra lightweight laptops. Thank you so much to LG for these incredible laptops and for sponsoring the show this year. And 2022, it's right around the corner, everybody. So now it's time to finally get your act together and get yourself groomed for a new year, new you in 2022. So I recommend getting the Lawnmower 4.0 groomer from Manscaped.com. Use our coupon code Raiders of the Lost at checkout for 20% off and free shipping your entire order today from Manscaped.com. They're also launching a ton of new products next month in January, which we can't wait to talk about. But for now, they've also launched their 2-in-1 shampoo conditioner, their body wash. We also have their weed whacker, their men's wipes, which are great, smell awesome, and tons of great stuff, including their Performance Package 4.0, which also has their Lawnmower 4.0 groomer in there. The groomer has 7,000 RPM motor, which is very fast, wireless charger, built-in light. It's amazing. You can use it in the shower. It's skin safe. So fellas, get on Manscaped for all your men's grooming products. Stay tuned for more to come in January. Everyone listening, if you have to get a gift for the man in your life, if you're too late on the holiday season, you might as well just get him a New Year's present, maybe. Get to Manscaped.com. Use our coupon code Raiders of the Lost at checkout for 20% off your entire order and free shipping worldwide.
And when you said that they shot, they shot the exteriors with that building and also used miniatures as well. but most of the interior shots were actually shot in studio. And in the background, they did a great job with the background and the windows because they're really showing off the background of the LA landscape through the windows, and it looks really great, but it's not real. What they did was they created a 380-foot panoramic painting, and it surrounded the set of the building, and it was actually painted to be both night for night scenes and daylight for day scenes. So like you have like the beautiful warm sunset in the background of Holly's office during that scene, and then the great night scenes with all the lights in the background. They designed the set piece to actually have the little lights move like they were lines of traffic. So it looked like there were actually cars in the distance moving in the background.
Yeah, I think there was just one scene or like interior location that I saw where it looked like it had to have been really inside the skyscraper with LA around it, because it's the set where it's like the 33rd floor where John McClane's kind of like in that unfinished floor, hiding out at first, and then it's where also he kills Tony when the guy comes to kill him, and he's just running around. But you can see lights flickering and like street lights and stuff. So that looked like that set interior. I think was the only one to me that seemed like it was definitely inside. But a lot of the exteriors on top of the skyscraper, that's real for sure.
Yeah, but it's like McTiernan is a great director because of his practicality. Like all the gunfights in this movie are
real guns,
real blanks. They sound real. Oh, real guns.
That went over your head.
It's amazing no one died. But like real explosions, real gunfire. It sounds legit. Like this is like up there with Heat, where like the machine gun fire, the handgun fire, it sounds like real weapons.
Yeah. And the plot, it's easy to follow. It's simple. It's not complicated. There's not a lot of fluff. It's edited so well. They trimmed all the fat off this movie. I really like the script, also all the improvisation of many of the characters. Hans Gruber has some really great dialogue as well. The characters, they're all so unique, including the terrorists are all unique and have their own personalities as well. Bruce, again, is awesome, but also this film is very funny. There's a bunch of really good lines. Argyle is a super funny character. Al has a ton of great lines and jokes. Then I think what Die Hard does so well is it's constantly like walking this tightrope of light and dark, of humor and seriousness. It can get intense and like almost like John McClane almost dying moments and some of the crazy stuff you'll ever see, and then just very light things too at the same time. So I think it does a great job going back and forth, which keeps you just super tuned in as an audience member.
Yeah, and what I really love about the writing and the lack thereof is the lack of exposition and the lack of character backstories. Like, I love when villains, I mean, it's nice to have an empathetic villain, and it's nice to see like villains that you understand like why they're doing what they're doing, but sometimes, it's good just to have a villain who's just bad because they're bad.
They're bad people out there.
And it's just like Hans Gruber, I don't need to know his backstory. I don't need to know why he became a criminal, like what horrible thing in his past made him turn, and, was he getting vengeance on John McClane or blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't need all that. I just need Hans Gruber to be a bad guy, and sometimes that's better than anything else. I don't need to know the backstory of all these criminals, all these terrorists and robbers. I mean, they barely touched on John's backstory, and that was enough. You know what I mean? It's more about how the characters interact with the situations and how they interact with each other that reveals more character detail than, them going off on a 1-minute monologue about, like, the biggest moment of their life when they were 13 years old. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's so much better this way.
A great point of that and lack of exposition is between John and Holly, Gennaro now, because, he's still in New York City. He didn't follow his wife despite her getting having this very successful career, this incredible job opportunity in Los Angeles. She took the kids and left without him because he's too stubborn to go. That's his biggest character flaw, and he's too late to realize that until the end of the film. And, Heidi had to do what's best for her and her family and take that job. What did I say?
Heidi.
Did I say Heidi?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Holly Gennaro. But by being revealed to us that she's going by her maiden name now, that's all the exposition we need to know about what's going on in their relationship and their marriage, how it's rocky.
But the way it's done is even great.
It's him looking up the name.
Yeah, it's not him telling some other character, yeah, she goes by Gennaro now. he's discovering it when we discover it, and it's actually relative to the plot because he's trying to locate her in the building, and it's just really well done. Action showing rather than telling.
We don't need 18 lines of dialogue of them going back and forth about what's wrong with their marriage. We know right now that like they're on the verge of divorce and they're separated.
That's
obviously.
all you need. That's all you need.
Versus maybe thinking that she just took the job and so she's here and he's visiting for the first time, and obviously they're not don't have an amazing marriage, but you can tell by her going by her maiden name that their marriage is almost over.
And I feel like modern movies, like if this was made nowadays, they each would have like 5-minute monologues about what happened and what went wrong in the marriage, and it's like we don't need to hear that. It's enough to just know that their marriage is rocky, and then we can just go on from there.
And it's realistic where they have a fight about a fight that the last fight they have, which is what when you're in a relationship, that's what you fight about. The last thing you fight about, it's like kind of recurring.
Yeah, exactly. And
if
also,
you don't resolve it.
Yeah, it just felt like a real marriage, and it felt realistic.
Yeah, if anyone knows anyone that's gone through divorce or anything, it felt pretty authentic. How about we head on into our intermission right now and have a little fun?
Yippee Ki-yay.
Yippee Ki-yay, mother effer. Let's start with the movie quote competition. I actually have a quote from a fan that's a TV show. This is from Lawrence Mertz.
What's up, Lauren?
You ready?
I'm ready.
Let me explain something to you about business, since as usual, you're turning this into something about yourself. No contract means I have all the power. They want me, but they can't have me.
Say it again?
Let me explain something to you about business, since as usual, you're turning this into something about yourself. No contract means I have all the power. They want me, but they can't have me.
I'm stumped, Lauren.
Mad Men.
Ah, good one.
I haven't seen that show in a long time.
Good one, Lauren.
All right, and this one's for me. I ain't going to kill him. I'm just going to take a foot off of him. A man can work with one foot.
What is this? Oh, man. Double stumped. I don't know.
Armageddon.
Ooh.
That's Bruce Willis's character in Armageddon.
Oh, yeah. Good one. All right, I have two. This is from Damon Heinzman. Great fan of ours. One day, the AIs are going to look back on us the same way we look at fossil skeletons on the plains of Africa. An upright ape, living in dust with crude language and tools, all set for extinction.
I feel like I watched this recently. Can you say it again?
One day, the AIs are going to look back on us the same way we look at fossil skeletons on the plain.
No.
An upright ape living in dust with crude language and tools, all set for extinction.
Oh, man. iRobot? I don't know.
Ex Machina.
Ex Machina! Oh! I love that movie too! Oh, I can't believe I didn't get that.
Yeah, I can't believe you didn't either.
Crap. Disappointed in myself.
I'm disappointed in you. I got it.
All right,
I got another quote.
Okay.
From Jason Fleming. Hope you have a big trunk because I'm putting my bike in it.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it? 40-year-old virgin. All right, guess this movie release year. 12 Monkeys.
Good movie. Terry Gilliam.
It's a mind F.
1996.
95.
Ah, damn it. Here's my movie release year. Sleepless in Seattle.
94.
93.
Ah.
Sorry, bud.
I love that movie.
So I think that it's okay, but it's not as good as You've Got Mail.
I like Sleepless in Seattle a lot.
It's good, but they don't have any interaction until the last minute of the movie.
That's why it's so special.
Yeah, but in You've Got Mail, you have both actors in like 10 scenes together.
That's true.
Yeah,
I get that.
It's just missing that, the two actors were in scenes like bouncing off each other and actually speaking.
All right. What's next? Biggest hater of the week. Who we have for haters?
Oh, quiz, man.
Oh, my bad. I skipped. So sorry.
Slow down, man.
I'm just so
slow
ecstatic.
it down. Slow your roll.
Let me slow it down. Whiplash. How many Die Hard movies are there?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Nice. Good job.
Thanks. And I'm not counting the Die Hard battery commercial though. That was good. Have you seen that?
No.
Oh, it's great. They Sears made a commercial for their new battery called Die Hard Battery, and then they just basically made a short film of a Die Hard movie with Bruce Willis.
That's pretty cool.
It was awesome. It was really good.
How long ago was it?
Last year. Came out
check that
last
out.
Christmas season. Okay, here's my quiz. Who directed Sleepless in Seattle and You've Got Mail.
Rob Reiner.
Famous female director.
Um,
Rob Reiner's in. Sleepless in
Patty
Seattle.
Jenkins.
No.
Sleepless in Seattle.
Girls are gonna be disappointed, man.
How famous is she?
Very famous. She's made a bunch of huge, romantic films.
I know. Jane Campion? No.
Nora Ephron.
Oh, crap. Sorry.
You've been canceled.
I really like that movie a lot. I love little rom-coms. Guilty pleasure for sure.
All right, I got some haters. These are good ones. So I'm gonna go through them fast because there's a bunch. There's a bunch. But on my episode of my top 100 episode, we got a bunch of great comments. So this is people referring to my list of movies, not being happy with it. Joel Quigley wrote, "No Spy Kids 3D, unsubscribed." Not Dawson. Endgame is the greatest piece of cinema since Avengers: Infinity War. Unsubscribed. Tristan Condi. This podcast sucks. All these guys do is provide me with hours of entertainment and a bunch of knowledge in the world of film. Unsubscribed. Devilton Weed. Can't believe you don't have Wolverine Origins in your top 10. Big Fat Liar getting snubbed by Bobby Law. And then Kyle's Taylor, 27. Quotations. No Guardians of the Galaxy? Quote, Empire. Empire Magazine. Oh, and Amanda Grace. No Twilight? Unsubscribe. Sorry, Amanda.
All right, we have a couple of really, really sweet 5-star reviews for our supporters of the week. The first one is Jay Gumi. Man, these guys are doing movie gods work. I struggle to find a movie podcast as great as this one. I am so glad I found it. Engaging conversation between these two brothers and great chemistry amplifies my love for film and gets me through my days. Keep working hard, guys, or I will unsubscribe. I love how people who must see the show and reviews are like, why are people unsubscribing from it? They just don't get the inside joke yet. Wow, why? We get that people write that all the time, and
Yeah.
sometimes people are like, why are you going to unsubscribe? They're like, I'm just joking.
Or the fake haters.
Yeah. This is from Legit X Italian 15. Easily my favorite podcast. I started watching late last year from TikTok, and since then I watched pretty much every episode. I never knew I needed a movie podcast until I heard theirs. They really help me get through the day, especially when I'm working. They're also really funny, and they know what they're talking about. They're the best podcast out right now. And also, subscribing to their Patreon is so worth it. Oh, thanks so much for becoming a
Thanks,
patron.
pal. You're legit.
Once you start watching them, you will never be able to turn away. Love y'all, and thank you for being so awesome. Thank you for being so awesome. That
Thanks,
was
pal.
really sweet.
Appreciate it.
On this day in film history, today is December 23rd. In 1971, Dirty Harry was released. In 1987, Good Morning Vietnam was released. In 1992, Scent of a Woman was released. In 1997, As Good as It Gets is released.
Nice.
In 2009, Up in the Air is released, which somehow beat Inglourious Basterds for screenplay.
Yeah.
In 2016, Nocturnal Animals was released. And happy birthday to Stranger Things himself, Finn Wolfhard.
Nice.
My streaming recommendation is The Blair Witch Project.
Ooh.
Let's get spooky.
Good one. I have Palm Springs on Hulu. I watched it last night. It was really good.
Good choice. And the Godfather tier patron of this episode is Sarai Rogers. Thank you so much, Sarai, for being such a huge fan of the show. You're an OG. You've been here forever. We really appreciate all your support on social media, interacting with us, sharing your comments, and especially being a patron for several months over the last year and a half. All right, let's get back into Die Hard.
With where are we going to lead off? Let's see. Want to get into
Actually, I know how to I know how to lead off.
All right.
So, this film puts John McClane in a bunch of life-threatening situations. What would you say is the scariest life-threatening situation that John McClane is in this film, if it was you?
If it was me, I honestly think the scariest moment for John McClane is the initial moment of the terrorists invading the party. And what makes John such a great character, first of all, I love how, he's not like an ex-special forces or like a Navy SEAL.
He's just a cop.
He's just a cop. He also has great instincts, and he acts when he needs to act. So he makes the right decisions, but he doesn't have to be like ex-military, you know what I mean? Which is always the way it is now. But I think the moment when the terrorists invade the party. And just picture yourself, you're in a room. You're in that room. You just took your shoes off and you're relaxing. You just cleaned up after the flight, and then
You're walking on your knuckles with toes.
Exactly. And then you hear machine gun fire in the next room over, and you looking through the crack of the door, and there are terrorists invading the party and approaching the hallway where your door is. I think that's the scariest moment for John McClane's character. I think that's the scariest moment for me, where I would be, because all the other parts of the movie, generally he's by himself, but like that's the moment where if John McClane doesn't act in that moment, he's dead.
True.
And I think it's a great moment of showing
he might not be dead, but they're all dead because they're gonna blow them all up anyways.
Yeah, but I mean, two guys with machine guns would have walked in, one of them would have hit him. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I don't think he would have gotten out of that situation. So John McClane acting in that moment, right when that terrorist turns around to look at the naked woman, if he didn't run away right there down the hall to the stairwell, he'd be toast.
They'd all be dead. They wouldn't have shot him right there. They would have just brought him to the others.
He had a gun in his hand. They would have shot him.
Well, if they were coming to the door, maybe if he wanted a gunfight.
Yeah, he was holding a gun. They would have shot him.
Yeah, you're probably right.
He'd be dead.
You're probably right.
If he didn't act in that moment,
they'd all be dead. Yeah, because they were gonna blow all the terrorists up. I mean, they were gonna blow a bunch of them up. They weren't all gonna get on the helicopter, probably.
Well, no, I'm just saying in that moment.
No, I know, but also in addition to if he doesn't escape, then they're all gonna
everyone
die.
in the party would have died.
Probably. Yeah. There are a couple others, I think. So I think the shootout on the rooftop is terrifying because again, he's a cop. He's not ex-military. He probably doesn't have experience using heavy machine guns.
These guys are.
And what is he using? Like an MR3 rifle or an M3 or who knows what kind of guns they're using? But he doesn't seem to be experienced with them, even though the terrorists are terrible shots.
Well, they're movie villains.
I think
he does get hit once. Though,
he does
in
get
the shoulder
shot at the end. The fire hose scene that you talked about earlier, when he jumps off the roof with the fire hose after the attack helicopter comes around to shoot him, the FBI guys, to blow him up, and he jumps off the roof with tying himself with a fire hose, and then he survives by getting inside that room, but then the fire hose is so heavy it's starting to drag him down, and it's dragging him off the building, and he has to quickly untie himself from the fire hose. I think that's also an incredibly scary, life-threatening situation.
And you've seen that copied multiple times since then.
But I think the number one for me when I watch this movie, the scariest situation he's ever been in is the elevator shaft leading to the air duct system.
Oh, yeah.
So this is when he's being chased by the terrorists off the roof, and then he makes it inside, like the areas that he's knows already that he's been walking through and kind of hiding out in and planning his attacks and everything. And then they're coming in after him. He gets through that fan, and then he goes into the elevator shaft opening, which he drops something, and it takes 10 seconds to hear it crash, and then he's just like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. And then he slides through the opening into the air duct using his gun and the strap attached to it as a rope to hang down to hold him up, and then he has to somehow grab one of the openings of the other air ducts on a random floor, which I think is just the most terrifying thing that you could ever put in a situation you put yourself in. You're putting your entire life on a strap of this gun, hoping it doesn't break and you fall down to your death.
Yeah, that's definitely a highlight of the movie. I think that's a great scene for sure.
And they actually had the stunt guy who did that. Actually, it's not he's not 40 feet up, 400 feet up in the air, but he actually did fall and caught himself on the wrong duct and vent, but they used it and kept that take, and that's where he's supposed to grab the one below him, but he falls 2 down and grabs a hold of it, and that was actually an accident which they kept on. And then so the air duct, I think, just in general, also the claustrophobia involved with that. I would be terrified just going through that. Even though John McClane is just so cool, he's like, oh, so this is what it feels like to be at TV dinner. He's so cool about it. I'd be freaking out if I was inside an air duct.
That's the most iconic shot of the movie.
Yeah,
of Bruce Willis inside the air duct with the lighter. Although, so the thing with air ducts inside of them, the nails, when they nail air ducts and piece them together, they're put together with little nails. The nails are sticking out inside of the air duct. So if you actually did crawl through air ducts, you'd be crawling on top of little nails. So that's what reality would be like. There would be blood everywhere.
Also, he wouldn't have made that jump.
Yeah,
in reality, he would have fallen to his death. Come on to the coast. We'll get together, have a few laughs.
Yeah. But whenever I see air duct scenes, I'm like, where are the nails?
Another really intense, life-threatening situation for John McClane is, well, obviously he's in multiple shootouts, but I think the one with the glass, when Hans Gruber tells what's his name?
Carl
to shoot the glass.
Shoot the glass.
And then he has to run through the glass. That's a terrifying sequence. And then he gets the glass in his feet, which is an iconic part of this character, the bloody glass feet. And When John McClane runs through the glass shards in his bare feet after Hans and his men shoot out the glass partitions in the computer room, Bruce Willis is actually wearing special rubber shoes designed to look like his own bare feet. One can see this if they look closely enough at his feet, which appear quite unnaturally large in some of these crucial barefoot scenes.
So like Hobbit feet.
Yeah, and so the concept of him running around this building without shoes is really interesting, and it obviously makes him a vulnerable character, which I really like. We like the vulnerability of John McClane. That's why he's very relatable. But I do think there's a foot loophole in this film where he kills Tony the terrorist. And the terrorists in this film are obviously, many of them were cast because of being 6'6" and giant, domineering, and intense bodies and people. Just
And blonde.
Yeah, and looking like they're in like bassists of rock bands in Sweden or something like that. The hair and everything. But most of them are massive. They're cast like that on purpose. And he kills the first one, Tony, and he tries to put on his shoes, and he's like, 9 million terrorists in the world. I gotta kill the one with feet smaller than my sister's. And if you look at the terrorist in the chair, his feet are massive. They are enormous. He's like size 17.
There's no way that guy has small feet.
His you can see his bare feet as he's strapped to the chair. And then Bruce Willis is probably like a size 8 or 9. It's like, there's no way that his feet don't fit those shoes. It's just a little loophole it's the one thing that bugs me about this movie.
It's the one plot hole.
It's definitely a plot hole. It's
Yeah.
like, dude, that guy's shoes should be too big for you, not too small.
I love that. You pointed it out last time.
I always point it out to myself.
But the action in this is so realistic, and like I said, the gunfighting is so great, and they actually did use real blinks during that scene where I can't remember that terrorist's name, but he's chasing McClane on top of the table, and he's like running across the table while McClane's sliding underneath the table. When McClane shoots him finally from below and just like blows up his legs and body, it's great. But because he fired the gun so close to his face, Bruce Willis suffered hearing loss in his left ear, and he lost 2/3 of his hearing in the left ear.
Wow.
Yeah.
For the rest of his life?
The rest of his life.
That makes sense. It's like literally right next to his face.
Yeah, he's like firing it like.
It's a great shot, though.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite shots.
He has so many great lines in
Yeah.
this movie.
Most of it's improvised. It's
And
amazing.
He murders every single one of them. That's why this is one of the greatest action movies of all time. It's just the deliverability of his one-liners.
Yeah, I love the one-liners in this. It's like up there with Arnold has great one-liners as well.
But I mean, in general, the characters are so good. Even the terrorists. So like, I think a great example is Carl, who is Gruber's basically second in command. We get his characterization right away when his brother is trying to like take out the comm systems and doing all the wiring and everything, and then he comes in with the chainsaw, and it just shows like the difference in characters between those two people, even though they're terrorists. Like, why characterize them? Because it makes them more interesting.
One's the nerd with the glasses,
And the other one's
the jock,
the blunt one. He's just like, I'm just gonna cut this off with a chainsaw.
Yeah. You better hope you connected in time. I like the hacker guy too. He's really funny.
So Theo,
Theo.
He's an awesome character as well. He's super funny. He's played by Clarence Gilliard. He's Gruber's tech specialist. Clearly very well educated. And he's a lot similar to. He's probably the most similar to Gruber. Probably a classical education. Really, really great computer hacker. He can hack into the system. But I love how the film constantly insinuates he's like, there are 6 locks which I can bypass, but the 7th one can't be cut locally. Which I think a lot when you watch, you're like, what does that even mean? And Hans Gruber's like, don't worry, it's part of the plan.
For me, I'm like, you don't think Theo already knew that the 7th thing could be done by cutting from the city?
I think he knew, but he just wanted to make sure this is the situation, right? Like, I can't do it. I just got to double check with
Hans
you.
just very theatrical.
Before we go through with it. But the plan is really good because Hans knows that at some point the police and FBI are going to be involved at some point. And when John McClane messes up the timeline of their plot and their plans, it doesn't ruin their plan. It just expedites and brings the police in a little earlier than they wanted to. But it is really the detonators once John McClane gets a hold of them that really puts an anchor in their plans.
And it's just like the third one, which I love the third one. And it takes the same route for the terrorists where, they use terrorism as a way of disguising the fact that they're committing a robbery. And I just really love how that setup is done in the third one as well. It's like the second one didn't really work that well. But the third one, I think they understood, what made the first Die Hard so good? All right, let's just duplicate that and just make it a new story. And set it in a new place, have some new characters, and expand the scope of it. And I think it really worked out for a sequel.
Yeah, and I think Holly's also a great character, played by Bonnie Bedelia. She was chosen by Bruce Willis to portray Holly Gennaro McClane after he saw her performance in Heart Like a Wheel, which came out in 1983. Holly's going by her maiden name now. They're almost, you could say, about to be divorced. She took the kids with her. She is a very smart, capable person. She's also very courageous and decisive in this film when dealing with Hans Gruber after he takes out Takagi. And instead of doing like the damsel in distress, she's a very strong character. You know, she stands up to Hans Gruber multiple times in the film.
Takagi's death is crazy. There's so much
you
blood.
don't expect it to happen.
Yeah, because you've seen all the movies where it's like they're going to do the count of 3 and then, you know, something's going to happen, but he really just blows them away. It's insane.
Even Takagi doesn't think he's going to do it. Played by James Shigeta. He's like, I don't know the password. I guess you're just going to have to kill me. He's like smiling. He's like, okay, I will.
Peace.
We'll do it the hard way.
Peace out.
So it's pretty shocking when you see like
you need to see that so you know that Hans Gruber means business.
yeah, we're not messing around.
Yeah.
I'll kill everyone here if I have to get inside that vault.
That's what makes Hans such a great character. He can be so polite and so professional, but then he could just snap and like kill you without hesitation.
But also it shows like the arrogance of probably you could say all powerful people and powerful men, where Takagi, he knows that they're here for the vault now. He knows he wants the $650 million in non-negotiable bearer bonds I have downstairs, but he's not going to kill me. So yeah, go ahead and shoot me, guy.
Good
Boom,
luck.
Dead. So even he doesn't expect it.
Exactly. That's what makes a great villain.
And then Hart Bachner as Harry Ellis is another really great, interesting character. He's a little bit of a wild card. He adds that cocaine sleaziness to it.
Hans,
that spice.
Bubby.
I'm your white knight.
I can bring him to you.
I can bring him to you. John, how can you say that after all these years?
I love when John walks into his office, to Holly's office for the first time, and he's sniffing coke on the desk, and he has to like wipe it away, and then he's like, "You missed some."
Takagi's like, "This is Holly's wife. He's a policeman." But it seems like as long as you do your job well, it doesn't really matter what's going on.
Yeah,
I think
it's
that's
business.
That's corporate world
Yeah,
in general.
it's like if you
make us money, it's all
whatever
good.
you want. Yeah.
It's all good to us. And then I think there's the character. Oh, of course, Al.
Yeah.
Played by Al Powell, played by Reginald Vell Johnson. A great character. Him and John are like the emotional heartbeat of the film. Obviously, the reunion of John and his wife is really touching, and we eventually get that at the end of the film. But
it's nothing on the love story between him and
it
Al.
really is. It's a love story between the two of them. You're right. It's an action rom-com between them. It's really heartwarming sometimes, and you know they get very personal because I think John especially. He needs someone to talk to kind of vent and get things off his chest because he could die any minute.
I was like, "Baby, just tell me."
Just keep talking. I got this. Oh, you want to tell your wife something? What do you want to tell me? And they joke around, and they're very similar. And, you know, you learn backstory on them both. You learn the backstory about Al, where he accidentally shot a kid, and he's kind of dealing with that emotionally going forwards, and how he never wants to draw his gun out again, which he has to in order to save the day at the end of the film.
Redemption.
And John's using Al as a vehicle to kind of do therapy on himself about all the things that he's done wrong in his marriage, and how, you know, she's heard me say I love you 1,000 times, but she's never heard me say I'm sorry, and I just want you to, if I don't make it out, I need you to tell these things to my wife. So it's sort of him analyzing himself and coming to terms with the mistakes he's made.
And then we also get like the great, like ridiculous FBI stuff, and Dwayne Robinson is just so annoying, and
by
deputy
Paul
chief
Cleason,
marshal,
LAPD deputy chief.
Yeah, he's just like the worst character ever.
He's so annoying, and then he has, but in the third act of the film, everything he says is just a great one-line joke. It's pretty funny. He's like, I guess we're gonna need some more of those FBI guys.
But at first he's like he'll say anything to make it seem like it's not really a terrorist attack.
So incompetent.
Yeah.
He's like, what about the guy who came off the roof? Could have been just some depressed stockbroker. Like, what are you talking about?
And then when the FBI show up, it's like, this is my crime scene. Not anymore. It's not. Like in movies, the FBI is portrayed in a certain way, but realistically, you know, law enforcement authorities, they work together in a collaborative way nowadays, and they really do they are like a big team.
Especially post 9/11.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the biggest problem with 9/11 is no one talked to each other. They didn't work together.
Nobody shared information, but nowadays they have much better relationships.
I also love Argyle, who's John's limousine driver, played by Devereaux White, who this is his first day in the job, and he's definitely getting fired. He not only is he lying, he says, hey, baby, my boss thinks I'm on my way to Vegas right now.
Terrible.
And he's stuck inside this building, and then he crashes into that ambulance. So he's just showing up back to work with this fake ambulance. I mean, this destroyed ambulance. Limo.
And he asks John what he's supposed to do. It's like, drive. just drive, man.
But we get a great character moment for John early on when he sits up front. He's like, I've never been in a limousine. He's like, all right, I'll sit up front, I guess.
I love that.
But Argyle's super fun. Ton of great comedic moments, especially like the cuts of like when the stuff's going on behind him. And he's blasting music with the teddy bear on the phone with his girl. Super funny character.
And then he even helps out by crashing into the Theo when he's trying to use the ambulance.
taking Theo out.
And that was a great plan by the criminals to like escape with an emergency vehicle.
The entire plan is very smart and really
That's
intelligent.
like the Ocean's 11 ending.
But it's also, Hans is so intelligent, but he's also as arrogant as he is intelligent, which is his biggest weakness.
Arrogance is definitely his biggest flaw. And now, for all you movie lovers, the holiday season is here. It's time to get a gift for that movie lover in your life, and the perfect gift is a movie poster of their favorite movie or TV show. Head on over to movieposters.com and use our special promo code Raiders10 to get 10% off your order today. They have all sorts of sizes, framing, backlighting, pretty much every film and television show imaginable. They have it in their arsenal. Movieposters.com has everything you need for your poster needs. Head on over there and use our promo code Raiders10 to get 10% off your order today.
I think one of my favorite parts of the film, and I think what makes it work so well, is the interactions between Hans and John. How at first it starts off just all on the walkie-talkie talking. They don't know who each other are. And then the first time they meet is when Hans is trying to go check the explosives on the roof of the skyscraper to make sure that they're still intact and that they'll still go off. And they're also looking for the detonators, which John has, and the explosives. But he accidentally stumbles upon John up there on you could say like the floor below the roof. And he's very intelligent and smart and sharp and quick. And he probably planned the situation that like I'm gonna have to impersonate an employee maybe or something like that, or maybe he knows everything. He knows everything about the building and the staff because. I don't know if he just looked at the employee chart on the wall and picked out a name, but I'm guessing he knew them all beforehand.
I'm guessing from research he knows everyone that works there because you never know when that could come up.
And if I'm going to have to impersonate somebody, if the police come in, I'm going to pretend I'm Paul Clay or Bill Clay. And then William Clay's up there on the board. So he's really intelligent. He improvises on his feet and pretends to be American and switches up his accent, which I think is pretty solid. He does a pretty good job. But then they go back to now that they know what each other's look like, and Hans gets the upper hand, and his guys come and gets the detonators and the explosives back, so they're back in business and everything. And then they don't meet again until the final duel at the end of the film, so they only have 2 scenes together face to face, which is awesome. And that final duel is really epic, and John outsmarts him and tricks him and shoots him with the gun taped to the back of his taped to his back with the duct tape. Hans. We have some.
Jimmy's been saying that all week.
We have a couple of sketches coming out soon, and I played John McClane. It's gonna be pretty good.
All week you've just been walking into the house like Hans.
And then when Hans finds out that John is Holly's husband, he flips up the photo. He's like, oh, now I have a bargaining chip now. I'm going to take Mrs. McClane with me.
Yeah, I love the scene when John tricks Hans, because even though Hans is a highly intelligent person, John McClane is street smart. He might not be sophisticated or well educated, but he knows people. And he's not an idiot. He's like, what do you think? I'm a fucking idiot?
Give you a gun with bullets?
Oh, no bullets. What do you think? I'm stupid?
I love it. It's
yeah,
because
he shows up with the gun with the machine gun that has no bullets. And he's like, they're going to make me drop this gun, but they don't know I'm going to have one taped to the back.
Exactly.
So
he's very smart.
Super clever.
Yeah, he's great.
What, do you think I'm stupid?
So the reason why this movie works so well, and, Die Hard with a Vengeance works really well too, but this movie's so small, and the small scope really helps. Whereas Die Hard with a Vengeance has a really big scope, but it's still not like end of the world stakes. It's still just set inside New York City. But the reason why the other 2 sequels just don't work is because it got too big.
What, Live Free or Die Hard, and the other one?
And then
you mean when he crashes a car into a helicopter?
Yeah, and then a jet.
Yeah,
and then A Good Day to Die Hard in Russia. It's nuclear end of the world. They stop a nuclear holocaust, and it's like it's too big. The stakes can't be that big.
It's not Mission Impossible.
Yeah, it's not Mission Impossible. He's not Superman. He's not Iron Man. McClane in Die Hard works when it's a more contained story, and that's why this is the best one. This is why Die Hard with a Vengeance is the second best one. The second one, it's okay. But, I mean, they got way too big in the sequels. And,
plus Sam L in the third one.
Yeah, Sam's great in it, yeah.
And then, what's his name? Alfred.
Jeremy Irons.
Yeah, Jeremy Irons.
Yeah, excellent other characters, and they were just missing so much from the last 2 sequels that came out.
Yeah, it's grounded. Even though the explosions all over the city, it's clever, and
It's great script.
They're just masking a robbery.
That's
Same kind of thing.
it's actually a script that was called Simon Says that the studio had purchased years earlier, and they were trying to get it off the ground, and then they're like, let's turn this into a Die Hard movie, and so they just took that screenplay, changed the character names, and made it John McClane the lead character, and that's how that story came out.
Yeah. But I love Die Hard because it ends up being a redemption story. He reunites with his wife, and
But the thing with the Die Hard redemption stories, the next movie he's always just like he screwed things
screws up again. He always screws everything up. Because that's his character. That's what he does. He's stubborn as hell. He ruined the marriage. He just can't hold his tongue.
Yeah.
Like he flew all the way to L.A. He ironically gets invited to this party by accident where he saves the day. Him and Holly are in that room where he's washing up. And it's like, he could just bite his tongue and he can stay with the kids. She invited me over. I'll just shut the hell up about the last name thing. We can talk about it some other time. But no, I can't hold my tongue in. I'm John McClane. Oh, so you changed your last name. You still love me, huh? Oh, are we still married? I didn't know. It's like, shut the hell up, John. She invited you over. Now you're going to have to go to Pomona. I'm going to go to Ramona. Pomona? Oh, you'll be in car half the time.
He's too disagreeable, man.
He's very disagreeable.
He's way too disagreeable. He's impossible to be married to.
Exactly.
Yeah, impossible.
I don't blame her. I don't blame Holly for leaving. I mean, you got to take that great job because you're much more successful than him and you're very intelligent, but I don't blame you for leaving John McClane in New York.
He's not husband material.
I would do the same thing.
He's just not husband
He's
material.
probably a great dad, but like probably a terrible husband.
He's a great dad you see on the weekends.
Yeah. Go to the ball game. He smells like cigarettes and coffee.
Hungover. You meet his different girlfriend every 2 weeks.
Hans! Holly! What kind of guy is married to someone for 10 years and never says, I'm sorry?
Yeah, right?
Even if, like, you break a glass, you can't just be like, I'm sorry I broke the glass, but, like, I broke the glass, whatever. What a douchebag. She's heard me say I love you 1,000 times. She's never heard me say, I'm sorry.
Not once, John. Jeez.
Why are you taking him back, Holly?
Destined to be alone forever. But he's great at killing bad guys.
He really is. Really good. Oh, man. I love Die Hard so much.
It's amazing. It's the best.
Yeah, so I think in terms of trivia, I just hit it all inside the episode for everything I've got.
Yeah, you sneaked it in there, man.
Yeah, is there anything else you want to talk about?
And next, we want to do a very special shout out to our friend Lauren Smertz's class, the Theater Club at Glen Hills Middle School. They are brand new fans of our show, and we appreciate their support.
All right, sweet. Well, thanks everybody for enjoying this holiday episode on Die Hard, which we adore so much. Stay tuned for this week. We got a bunch of awesome episodes coming with some MCU stuff leading up to Spider-Man No Way Home. Plus, James is my greatest 100 films of all-time list happening on Tuesday. It's just going to be me by myself in the microphone. It's going to be a good time. We don't know what's going to happen.
Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. Straight up wild card over here. So just stay tuned for that on Tuesday. Everybody have a great, great weekend. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Everything that's going on. Hope you have a wonderful time with your family and friends.
Bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Raiders of the Lost podcast. Be sure to subscribe if you're new. Hit the like button, leave a comment. Find us on all audio streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find us. Find us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Raiders of the Lost podcast. Be sure to check out one of these other videos right here for more content on our favorite films and breaking down all kinds of movie content. Thanks so much.